And welcome everyone to another episode of Soul Vibes. And my name is Alexis Sersha, and here we are in March 2024. And it feels like these months again are going so fast, and so much is going on. And at the same time, it feels like underneath it all, there is this now peace and quietness, because for many of us that have been doing this, this work, this spirituality, or whatever whatever one calls it, um, this year is truly the year where we do get to experience the fruits of our labor. So it feels like for many of us, there have been huge breakthroughs. And, these huge breakthroughs, they can feel like perhaps like certain events have happened and you feel like, wow, I have arrived into my life. And for some, there's just this, for others, there is just this incredible quietness or peace of spirit on the inside where you feel that presence of the peace and just the well-being and quiet joy and liking yourself, loving the life that you lead. Not that you don't want to change certain things still, but you realize that through the radical acceptance of your life, of who you are, of the world that it is, you have created this space on the inside where you can really just start to allow this beautiful, soft and quiet enjoyment in yourself, in those around you, in the loved ones, your friends, your family, that you can just enjoy quietly and beautifully without that, that pressure that we have felt inside, that it kept on saying, transform, transform, and change and change. And so, regardless of what, we're doing or what we're feeling, and the feelings there is this huge range of feelings that we experience throughout the days and the emotions. But because there is this this feeling of peaceful contentment and joy on the inside, there is this quietness. And then the next layer that is closer, to the surface can be a bit more wavy. And there's all these, emotions and feelings flowing through. And you can be sad, while you also have always this incredible feeling of joy and peace underneath it. Or you can be excited with life, or you can be, in love, you can be all sorts of things on the surface. But underneath it all, it's still this incredible joy that this radical acceptance is allowing us. And also when we do practice this radical acceptance, when you've accepted yourself at this deep level, then you are starting, or you're well on your way to feeling this true self, the authentic self. And we've talked about in the spiritual communities, the authentic self and true self is talked a lot about, but it takes years for some of us to come to this space of the authentic self. And then one day when you feel it, you realize, so this is what it is. There are these definite points of separation, in a way, in a sense, that you separate on the inside from what was, from other people, from events in the world, and you're starting to dip your feet, so to speak, into this well of your authentic and true self. And even though there is this act of consciousness and act of self, and you keep creating new facets to interact with and play with your reality and with who you are and with whatever you come in contact with during the day, there is there is this thing that is your true self. And there is no mistaking. Once you feel it, once you feel yourself as that, there is no mistaking about it. So if you will, I invite you to now breathe, come here into your own presence, to wherever you are, to whatever that you're doing, sitting, dancing. I know some are dancing while they're watching things. I do that as well. Lying down, and just come back into your presence and breathe deeply into yourself and feel that quiet presence of your true self. It is not a drama-filled self, but it's incredibly confident self, because this self really does not have to worry or make things up or create fantasies or create lies or create, deceptions of others or self-deceptions or any of that stuff, because it just simply is. You just simply are. And you don't have to define yourself. You don't have to prove from in this space of authentic self. You just simply are. You are enough. You are all that you want to be. You are all that you've ever wished for. There is nothing that you have to create. There is nothing that you have to achieve in this space of the authentic self. And yet, from this incredible space of being who you are, from this quietness, this gentle satisfaction of yourself, this gentle but all-pervasive sense of self, of rightness, it feels like all is well. Truly, all is well with you. All is well with your world. Quietly, and yet incredibly powerfully, without any agenda. And this is where your base is, your base out of which then all of the bubbles of joy, of creativity, of love, of experiences just bubble up. And this authentic self, there is no lack. There are no empty holes. It is all filled completely, quietly, all pervasively. It's filled with love, with respect, with just being good enough. And then all the creativity then bubbles up from this space. And when you are so clear after years and years and decades of work, of transformations, transmutations that you've done, because on top of this authentic self, which is so quiet, so fine, and yet so immensely powerful, not in a worldly way, but powerful in its quiet presence, was buried deep underneath all the layers and layers and layers. And yet you knew that it existed, this part of yourself. And for some, you wonder, you thought that perhaps it would have been like once you come to this place of this true authentic self, that there will be fireworks, that there will be big drama or something, because you were used to dramas before. You were used to shaking and pushing and all of this commotion. And yet in this space, of your true self, of your authentic self. It is just quietness. It is just this ease of being when all is right with you, when there is nothing to prove, when there is nothing to do, and yet out of the joy of who you are, of this being, so much is created. The worlds are created, your life is created, and all that is in it. And now this foundation is self-love. You finally have made it to this space, and for some of you, it feels like it's still a little bit fluctuating because you could still forget, and you get pushed this way or that way. It's kind of like as if the currents still have the power, the more surface currents still have the power to push you this way and that way. And yet more and more of the time you spend with this base, at the very base of your being, of this peace and quiet. And in the older writings and teachings, ancient teachings, there is this mention of a river underneath it all that flows, this river, this peaceful river. And this is it. There are many different ways as to how to explain this space. It's a delicious space. It is a very enjoyable space. It is a space that is vulnerable and naked. Naked, you in front of you, because it all is about you with you. And in this space now, when all is well, and you are this true, authentic self, you feel yourself as that. There is nothing you have to prove to anyone, to yourself, not to anyone else. And that is why it feels, as one of the reasons why it feels so good, so peaceful, and so drama-free in this space. And it's this kind of feeling that you get where you're sitting somewhere in a peaceful, perhaps in a nature space, you're perhaps watching a sunrise or sunset or the beautiful colors changing, and you have this vision of into the distance, because this space is also incredibly expansive. It encompasses and touches and has its roots into the depth of your being, into the depths that we often, refer to as the soul. Yeah, like the I am that I am, the ancient one, the eternal one. And so all of these roots are deeply embedded, are deeply reaching into and feeding, getting nutrition and food in the depths of your own being. And so these new times now, this Aquarian age, these new times that we're in, they lend themselves to being in this way. This is what these times were made for. And your plans, your way of being, whenever you come from this deep space of peace, of your true authentic self, it is beneficial. It is this new era is fit, it's made for life like this. And that is why you notice even this year, this quickening, being able to see through illusions and delusions of others, of society, of all of the vested interests, of power mongers, of all of the things are even more coming into the light of the day, into the light of truth. Because these times, this energy, the environment, the air that we breathe in is now made to play, to dance with your authentic self and with the authentic self of all of the others. And this is what it's supported, and this is what it's magnified. And this is where, like when you're acting, when you're living, when you're breathing out of this space, then all is well in all of your reality also. Not only in this inner space, but in your reality. And in this age that we call the new earth, within which we are in. And when we were on our way here, we didn't really know. If you asked us, any of us, if we stood in front of the mirror and we asked ourselves 10 years ago, wow, so what is this going to look like? What is it going to feel like? And almost like if someone was outside watching us play this game, they could possibly even get bored watching us, because it wouldn't really in some way make a good movie, because it's not like this kind of a big crescendo, and as I said, big fireworks or big drama. It's nothing like that. It's actually quite the opposite. It's just this quiet inner contentment, inner joy. And yes, out of this, we are going to create some beautiful, incredibly, authentic things, touching, real, truthful, as a truthful expression and representation of each one of ourselves. And this is what the reality around us also supports. It supports, it is not anymore a reality that would support fear and not feeling, having to have this incredible courage and battle to be able to say what you think, what you feel. No, this reality that we've co-created now supports people that are truthful, that speak their own truth. And it supports a variety and the uniqueness of each individual as well, because we can then realize, wow, I can like someone even if in many ways they have a different opinion, and yet in some other ways we meet together. We don't have to make a black and white camps anymore, or one side or the other side. For there are many people in all different areas of life now that are speaking these kind of truths as well, because this is the time, and many people are stepping out, whether it is because of whether they're speaking out regardless of which organization they're working, or stepping out on their own so that they can speak their truth, so that they don't have to lie, so that they don't have to, be oppressing their voice of truth. And they are supported in that, in the energy. They are no longer having to fear. Like for example, when 100 or 200 years ago, there's so many things we weren't able to say. And even last year, there were so many things that, in each one of our lives we couldn't say. And now we just say it. And now we just speak the truth, and we demand that our voice is heard and taken notice of. And it is okay for the people agree or disagree. It doesn't mean that other people will agree with us. Not at all. But it still means that, yes, it is time to speak, to act, to create whatever it is that we're creating out of this authentic self. And living with having this true authentic self so present, there are many huge changes that happen in one's life, like your own moral compass in everyday life, in all of the different activities and events that happen, it is always present, because you know, you don't have to ask yourself or question yourself. Sure, there is that time within which you consider and you can ponder on certain things. And yet that decision, the truth of the matter, on where you stand, on how you want to act and then proceed, it is so clear, it is so direct. It is like all of those veils and fantasies and lies and delusions and disinformation. It's just dropped, it's just collapsed. It has just gone away. And now there is this incredibly crystal clear clarity where I can see things as they are. I can see people. I can see, what they're playing, the games that they're playing. And there is this space where I can then make a decision. Yes, I want to be part in this, or no, I don't want to be part of this. And there is then no fear to then act on that. And it feels so good. And it feels so good not to, operate from that woundedness. And so that woundedness that has cleared, has healed. Do you feel it? Do you feel that underneath that painful woundedness that we carried, because we carried those seeds of Christ consciousness, and we carried them through the ages where that was persecuted, and now that reality no longer exists for us. And we've done the work of clearing, of bringing together that masculine and feminine within us, of bringing together the self-love and making it possible within to bring out this true, authentic self. And now, after that event, it means that now there are still things clearing, not clearing in the same way as what they were, but it is just that there's so many parts within ourselves that were engaged in that dance of woundedness. And so it is about looking at everything, breathing that light, breathing that love into all the different parts of the body, all the different parts of the self as they come up during the day. And they don't need to be resolved. They don't need to be cleared. They don't need to be healed anymore. They just need to be breathed in, infused with that love, with that light, to be encouraged that yes, you are now home, those parts, to be encouraged to breathe for themselves that light. And as that happens, then they too start moving, they start flowing, and they are then all of a sudden in that flow of life as it is now. With that, they still bring pictures, realizations of what those parts were involved with, memories from all the different life, let's say either previous lives, but also this life of memories from childhood, from all of the different stages. But it is a very, very different process now, because there is no more woundedness. You are healed. And as you breathe that truth in, and as you realize, I know that for some, because we've been so used to just constantly being fixing and doing and healing, when you realize, wow, I am actually healed. I'm just now dealing with parts of myself that have to now just reorient to the new reality that now I exist in. And to realize that now I operate from this true authentic self, meaning that on the inside of me, there is clarity, there is acceptance, there is love, there is respect. it's safety. On the inside of me, I am safe. I am safe for all parts of me. And therefore, I also am safe to other people. I am safe, and feel this truth. And add this feeling, this feeling of safety, that you are safe for all parts of yourself. Add this to your basis, to your foundation upon which you are now operating from. And of course, congratulate yourself that you are now healed. And so all of the doorway, let's say if we go into astrology a little bit, so perhaps some of you know that at the moment the North Node and Chiron, which is the wounded healer, are in Aries for all humanity. And that facet also falls within each of us individual charts. And so for humanity on the whole, it means that we're coming from feeling enmeshed with each other into the individual, into being your own unique self, into being responsible for your own self only, in a way that you yourself are responsible for certain things that before were supposed to be like a collective. You make your own decisions about what is morally right, what is not right, out of this authentic self. But for many people, if they're not aware of this authentic self, then their inner compass is now a little bit lost, because they're frantically trying to reorient themselves within this new space that we're in, trying to find leaders, upon which they can trust. And yet, that these times are now where we can't trust others, because the illusion that others, in authority are working for our benefit has been cracked in the last few years, where we've seen all of the things, that the decisions that authorities make, not that everyone within those circles is bad, but it's just the way those institutions have worked no longer works within this energy, because this energy now, the new age, the new era, supports an individual who has reached their true authentic self. And this is what Aries represents: self, the very basic self, not not even sophisticated. This is the journey that we are now continuing on, creating societies based on this real basic self, authentic self. Just feel it. Let's feel it again in this space. And so in this energy, when we feel this true self, we can orient ourselves so well. It benefits us. We can feel that this era was made for us when we feel this authentic self, because then you can navigate and act based on these feelings. And they are your true authentic feelings, because they're no longer those feelings out of trauma bond, or those feelings that are coming out of woundedness, out of shared fantasies, out of all sorts of psychological manipulations and games and whatever have you, because we've been able to cut through with the inner sword through all of that, and we're at the very basics, at the very basis and basic self, the true self, the authentic self. And we navigate the world out of these feelings. And that is why it's so important. What do you put there? What do you choose to have there as a base? Is it the your self-love, self-respect? Out of those if you put that as a base, then you don't have to worry or concern yourself about the choices and decisions that you're making. You can let go of the control, that control of fear, of wondering where is the truth because of these shifting sands that we are now on. Because out of this true self, you can keep making decisions regardless of where the sand has shifted, because you always are you with you. You always are coming out of the self-love, and you can trust those decisions. You don't have to control your day. You don't have to worry about your day, because you know and you trust that whatever will happen, the decisions will be out of this self-love, out of this authentic true self you, and not for others. That for others, the shifting sands, they're, because of the shifting sands, they're frantically looking for that authority, either on the outside, probably on the outside, because on the inside, they cannot trust, because they are not coming out of the clarity. They're not coming out of their authentic self. They haven't cleansed out those layers and layers of lies, of dirt, of muck that we've spent last decades, lifetimes clearing. And now you can see the work that you've been doing and feel respect for that work that you've been doing. And you also can see these benefits this year of the work that you now, that the benefits, the fruits of your labor are bringing to you in these incredible times. And these times, for someone who does operate out of this authentic self, they are incredible, because there are incredible opportunities, there are incredible potentials, because the reality responds to you, to what you choose, to the decisions, to your feelings, to your emotions so quickly and so immediately, and in such gratifying ways. Because when you are coming out of your true self, then the reality continually reflects like a real gritty authenticity, so that you end up living in this very, very authentic place. The nature, other people, everything reflects that back to you. Unlike, let's say, when people are still disconnected when they just keep floating and can't find that anchor in these times. They can't find that truth, because truth outside, where they're looking for it in other people, keeps changing, keeps shifting. New dirt stuff keeps coming out on people, and now with AI and everything. So yes, that people can feel and do feel very lost. And so each one of us is an anomaly almost in this way, because, even though it looks like there are many of us, there aren't. But we don't have to, we don't have to do all sorts of weird gymnastics to make ourselves create, to make ourselves do something, we don't have to distort ourselves or do all sorts of psychological tricks to try and get ourselves to follow a certain path, to do a certain discipline, to do all of these things. We just keep breathing in our presence, this authentic self, this true self. And out of joy that keeps bubbling out of this, we create. And so then the day can become really quite organized, disciplined, in a good way, because it's like all of a sudden, like time stretches, and all of a sudden the reality, the day can come all of a sudden, become much more healthy, not healthy, but mm, fitting in with your new, let's say, new activities or whatever it is that you want to do. And it kind of happens naturally. It's just like this constant natural outpouring of things, this natural outgrowth. And all of a sudden you realize, well, I don't want to participate in that anymore because, it wasn't healthy for the body or whatever, or all of a sudden said things, become much smaller rather than just completely taking over one's life. And it is not because I have to discipline myself and say, okay, from here to here, I will do this. It's just all of a sudden, it naturally, I can say no to things and I can say yes to some other things. And so create, sort of more fitting time slots for all the different activities. And it's funny because, in the first couple of decades, few decades of my life, I was reading all of the self-help books on how to discipline myself, on how to make myself, on how to inspire, or, like get myself to do things. So if only I have the discipline to do this, to learn that, to whatever, it was all trying to get all of this kind of advice. But now, through the journey that we've done, through clearing and then allowing this authentic self to be me, now it's kind of happening very, very naturally. All of the things that in the past I wished I could do, or I had the self-discipline to do, now it's kind of quite effortless. And because there is this inner desire out of this of the self, and then I just put it into practice. And this has been happening for quite a few years now, but last few months, it's taken on a whole new life. And I just cannot overstate this importance for these times, to keep breathing with yourself, to keep letting go of what no longer serves you, to keep letting go of the old, and to just keep breathing this new in, new, and it's quiet and it's peaceful. This blessed authenticity that just gives you that inner quiet confidence of who you are, what you are about, in just being you. And that is such an incredible feeling of I've arrived, and again, all is well in my world. All is well inside of me. All is well outside in my reality. And this incredible excitement about what is yet to come in this way, because then the reality keeps changing, keeps realigning to this new way of being. And it doesn't even need any special words or expressions. As a matter of fact, I've become in some ways much less spiritual, because it is just a simple truth of everyday life that doesn't need any special terms or any special stories or any special words or mythology. It just simply and plainly is enjoyment of everything within my life, of things that I participate in, things that I do, things that I feel, things that people that I participate with, all of that stuff, like the grass is greener on the other side, somewhere else. It's an ancient, ancient history. It truly is. When I am sitting in my own relaxed, authentic self. And this so far has not been possible before, not for me. Like, let's say, the energy of our surroundings, or what, the has had to change, because, like, I can feel for me, even with my body, even last year, a few months ago, the energies I felt around would always kind of let my shoulder come up, like when you're very sensitive and you feel things so acutely around you, the energies felt quite unsafe in many ways, so my body would automatically just go a little bit like this. But this year, everything in the energy of the planet has changed. And even though, if I look on the news or whatever, on the internet, on YouTube, and all the things that people are posting, it would seem that the world is a very unsafe place. But not for me. Something has shifted, that even my body also feels it. And it no longer feels like it needs to protect itself. And yet for me, nothing has changed in my, let's say, immediate environment that I could say. For example, let's say, for some people can say, oh, but you were in a relationship with someone and you didn't feel safe, and now they've gone and you feel safe. Nothing like that happened. Like, the people, it's pretty much like, if you look at it on the outside, it's pretty much the same. But even the people have changed in relationship with me. And so even my body doesn't feel the need to put that armor on. It just feels, very intimate, the reality, and very vulnerable, and very, very safe. And there are some incredible miracles happening all the time. Like, for example, I've had a dislike of someone, one of the neighbors, for example, and we've been able to make peace, incredibly respectful, in a respectful way. So just little things like that, for example. It's just incredible how the world is now reacting or acting all by itself, without me having to actually go and make peace or do anything, because other people can feel the change also. It is just that other people, unless they do this work, or unless they're like young people that have never had, the woundedness severing their inner connection, then then people can get lost if they don't have this inner connection. We let's say, people that participate here, people that have been involved with this spiritual journey for quite some time, we've decided to do that journey of being very disconnected and come back to self. So we've experienced that, some more or less. We're still on that journey, perhaps, but you can feel that self. You can feel it. And when you make the decisions in these times out of this place, then all is well in your life, in your world, in your reality. And this is such an incredible gift that we've given to ourselves, because if we didn't know, for those, of us who come from very disconnected self, if we didn't know what it was like before, we wouldn't know this sweetness, this gentle sweetness of this all is well, and feeling it, not just saying it as a theory, but feeling it on a daily basis. All is well with me. When you can say that every morning and feel it, even if nothing did change in your reality, just that feeling and the inner reality of that makes like a whole different planet, doesn't it? Okay, so I'm going to have a bit of a drink. Ooh. So we keep breathing with this authentic self, and we keep bringing ourselves to this space, and we get so familiar with this space that we notice when we're disconnected. And if we're disconnected, give yourself some time before making decisions, before you can feel connection again, connect again, and make the decisions then. And it is such a beautiful space, because you recognize the health in other people, and you can make the decisions based on the health of yourself and other people. And so your relationships with others go up the next level notch in all the different ways. Because when we were wounded, when we were separated, we weren't able to recognize the wellness in others. And so we would often resonate with people that weren't well, but sounded like they were. And so we could get lost when we're not coming out from this authentic self, we could get lost in who we trust, who we don't trust, who we trusted, who we believed, what we believed. It's kind of like this anchor is sort of floating here and there, never actually establishing within yourself. And so you too, your more daily consciousness is floating here and there without having these deep anchor within yourself, within your truth. And so you never could know before what other people are saying. Was it truth? Was it not? Was it another game? But when you're coming from this true self, your eyes are crystal clear. You can see through makia, through bullshit very easily. But it is not that you have compassion for. It's not that you can be rude or cruel. Not at all. It is just simply stepping out. And we've been talking about this now for a long time, about being able to see and stepping out. But this year, it's like a whole another level. So it's funny because, all of these circles, they're not circles, but it's kind of like a spiral. It just keeps coming back to itself, but, back to similar spaces and places, but they're very different every time that the spiral seems to come back to the same place is different. And I know that sometimes, people also say, that yes, we are in a different times, or this is different time and nothing is the same. But when you then look at the life, what does that actually mean? Nothing is the same. Because, when you really look at it, you still go to bed, you still get up, you still perhaps have breakfast, you still, there is still, daily life is filled with daily things. And so to say, oh, nothing is the same in this way doesn't make any sense, because what does that really mean? But when you can actually then see the real evidence, when you actually witness certain events during the day, when nothing is the same, you actually see it. How do you actually see this? Because those little things or big things within your daily life have changed. Because all of us, so that's why I'm talking about that spiral rather than the emptiness of just saying nothing is the same again, because the spiral gives you that physicalness, that realness, that grittiness, that embodiment, where you can actually point your finger to things that actually are changing and are not the same anymore. Because these times, this is another thing that is huge now. It's even more important to have things, real things, embodied things, physical things, not just fantasy. Fantasy and visualization is great. And some of the things don't have to become physical. Like, let's say you can give yourself to a fantasy or visualization, and it can be whether you're touching another lifetime or whatever. But there is a very clear difference also then with your embodied life. Because all of the ideas and things that we're talking about and changes, they must be reflected within the realness of your life, within the minute details, within the everyday life. Because if you just are feeling the change and it's a fantasy, and somehow you don't know yet how to pull it into the physicalness, then that will show as well. And it will be the difference between the fantasy and the physical reality then is not comfortable, becomes more and more painful. So that's why learning how to actually bring that change into your real physicalness is important. And that real physicalness can just be that you wake up feeling joyful. That is real, because this feeling of joy has a real physical implications on your body. There are different, chemicals. There are different chemical structure happening in your body. So this isn't a fantasy, right? So you're feeling good, you're feeling joyful is a real physical event or real physical happening that is happening within your body as well. And your cells react, and all of your internal organs and everything reacts to that. And then also how you do things. Do you feel good? How do you interact with your reality, with other people, with things that you do, with your body, of course, with yourself? All of those are the real gritty things that that show that the change is happening, that the new is here. And that's what I mean when I say your life in some ways has to physically, in real terms, reflect that change. It is not enough just to think about it and then not actually pulling it into your everyday life. For your everyday life must reflect this true self, this essence, this Christos consciousness being active within your life. And your life is the everyday, because this is where you're in it in your life. It isn't about doing some great things, even though that also is true for many. but it is just in the everyday simplicity of life that includes so many things, or perhaps not, that you keep bringing. You remember to keep bringing this, and then you can be a witness to all of the changes, so that, these new times, this new reality is no longer just a theory, but it is a reality in your day as well. And when I say the physicalness, your psychology, your emotions, your feelings are very, very much part of physicalness, the physicalness that I mean in this way, because they also are quite tangible, let's say psychological things, where you find things more easier, more joyful, more enjoyable. How do you feel about yourself? How do you feel about others? How do you feel about your partner, your parents, your children, your friends, the humanity? So this new is infusing this love, respect, self-love, and all of these things. The light is infusing all of that as well. And so when you witness yourself, all of a sudden, let's say, if you were pissed off about something that humanity did or whatever before, and all of a sudden you find that you have compassion instead, that you have understanding about that instead. That is your proof. That is your proof of the new. That is your proof of the new era within you, because we carry it in all that we are. And another thing, this new era is huge on emotions and feelings. And it is this incredible richness of a person through their own experience, through their own inner experience via the emotions and feelings. And you will see that coming to the forefront more and more, where, what people feel, how people react and respond, and to you, to each one, or to others or whatever. It is coming to the forefront, because it is this emotions and feelings, that inner music, the notes of the soul, the notes of your greater self, or whatever it is, and also to do with the being an individual, rather than having like this group consciousness, or everyone must feel this way, or everyone must whatever, and what people really felt didn't matter. This new era is all about individual people's feelings and emotions and this inner world. And so when we create society based on these kind of things, that's what then makes a society beautiful, pleasurable, loving, respectful. When we respect other people's feelings and emotions, but not from the true self, not the fake manipulative, we can see all of that. So once it's all cleared within ourselves, but also within our environment, then you can actually enjoy this beautiful dance and music of all of these feelings. There's such subtlety and poignancy and fineness of this inner world. And others also are noticing this, and there are more and more, let's say, scientific professions that are, there are evolve with that notice all of these patterns, even though one could say, well, inner world, the psychology and all of that is it's not something that is marked in wood, that it's not so easily seen, but we are learning how to see it in self and then recognize it in others, how to dance with it, and how to interact with everything much more in this way, because nature and animals and all of that also have these feelings and emotions, and it just creates a very, very different reality within which we then live and exist in. And that too is a new world. And so this physicalness, when I talk about the physical world, embodying your soul, yourself, like this soul self descending into your body as a human. It's all of that. It's the physicalness of your body, but it also is your feelings and emotions and all of that, perceptions and all of that as part of that. And so as you notice and witness in yourself things changing in this way, notice that too. And notice also how, as you give attention to how you feel and stuff like that, in an even more perceptive way, in an observant way, you notice that then the interaction and interrelation with what you're creating as well, because you feel it first. And your feelings are also an incredible communicator between your inner world, and not just inner world and outer world, but between that human self, that self that is more present physically in this reality, and the deeper realities of yourself, because it's through these emotions and feelings that you actually get to really feel those other realities and also this reality. And it's just incredibly beautiful to be in that state. And then your creativity and your art just explodes and blooms and it blossoms in so many surprising ways. And so I think that we've come to a completion to another Soul Vibes, dear friends. I hope that you're enjoying life. And for me and Alexis and my team, and I wish you all the wonderful stuff. Until next time, thank you.